We have a great group of women that are joining us that have really pioneered changes in the traditionally male-dominated industry, around coffee, wine, and dentistry. And our goal today is really inspire and enable each of you to go that extra mile when you didn't think it was possible. So I know some of you may be new to conscious capitalism, and I wanted to take a few minutes to just provide some context and background for you. First, by the way of introduction, I am Kathy Eastwood, Chair of Conscious Capitalism, New York City, and I'm joined by a number of my fellow board members, if you guys don't mind waving to the crowd. Conscious Capitalism, Inc. is a nonprofit organization whose purpose is to build a movement of business leaders improving the practice and perception of capitalism. We provide a framework to support business leaders while they elevate humanity through good, ethical, and noble business practices. Our belief is capitalism is good and it works, period. It's the power to positively change lives, and it's unparalleled. You think about all the great things that have happened as a result of it, like reducing poverty and child mortality, bringing literacy, education, art, and culture to people around the world. And ultimately, it's extended all of our life expectancy by years and years. However, on the flip side, we know we have a lot of work to do. We have allowed greed to step in, monopolies to take over, and a lot of companies are pressured to put the shareholders first. So we all have our own personal reasons why we're here, but fundamentally, we all believe that there needs to be conscience to balance the capitalism, and all of us have a role to help improve things. So there's 4 core tenets of conscious capitalism. It was first created by Whole Foods founder John Mackey and Ron Sisodio, a university professor, and they wrote the book on conscious capitalism. And those 4 tenets are higher purpose, stakeholder orientation, conscious culture, and conscious leadership. So each quarter, we actually spend some time as a group helping provide CC 101 sessions that allow us to go into depth on each one of those core tenets. So we hope you'll join us for future events as we go into depth on them. And our mission here in the New York City chapter is to build a thriving, sustainable community of individuals that are committed to drive business as a force of good in the New York City metropolitan area. This is through education, advocacy, and community building. And our vision is to connect, inspire, and activate conscious capitalists in our community with events like this one. So again, thank you so much for joining. Thank you to our speakers today. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out and we can send you more information. So let me kick things off. And I would like to introduce Michelle Abo, who is moderating today's session. Michelle recently joined the New York City chapter of Conscious Capitalism as the chair of our newly formed corporate board. She's a native of New York City and is the chief sales officer of Barry House Coffee. She has over 30 years of executive, commercial, marketing, and operations management expertise in the consumer products, ingredients, and industrial sectors. I am very excited to have Michelle here, helping bring this event to fruition along with our other corporate board members. And so with that, let me turn things over to Michelle.
Thank you, Kathy, and thank you for the lovely introduction. It's awesome. Thank you. And thank you to everyone today for attending. I just for a second do a little broadcast on Barry House Coffee. So Kathy mentioned that I'm the chief sales officer. We have a very also proud legacy. We were founded in 1934. We're privately held by the Goldstein family. And for 90 years, we have been recognized in the Metro New York market as one of the premier coffee roasters and manufacturers of premium coffees. For many years, we had an amazing brand. In more recent years, we have moved into doing private label for some amazing coffee companies and retailers. We relaunched our Barry House brand a couple of years ago. I'm sorry, I'm doing a little commercial here to be a second, just showing our products, which you can find here in New York, and we hope everyone will enjoy them. But in my role as chief sales officer, I'm super proud of what we do to support We are the 9th largest producer of fair trade organic coffees. So with our Fair Trade US partnership, we're obviously very connected in a conscious way to environmental stewardship. But I think of all the things I've done in my career and the different organizations I've partnered with, what I'm most excited about, and you'll hear about this from Kimberly, is our partnership with Equal Origins, the Partnership for Gender Equity, and the work that they do. And so she'll tell you about that. And you'll hear from all three of the speakers today about gender bias, and that's about opportunities for women and what that means, including pay, and it's on a more global scale. So we've got Carmen is sitting in South Africa. We've got the doctor out west, and Kimberly's work with her organization is really a coffee origin. But just a little factoid here. So we're all in New York, right? So I went on the website, and our Attorney General, Letitia James, has on the website that in the state of New York, women make 88 cents on the dollar versus men. So I actually heard something on the radio. So we're better than a lot of states. It is better in New York City, but even here on our home base, we have a ways to go. So I just wanted to bring that up. But in celebration of Women's History Month, we have 3 uncommon and totally amazing women who are going to shine the light on today. Each of these women were nominated by our board, and they'll share their stories of perseverance, passion, and success that will really inspire and enable us to go that extra mile when you might not have thought it was possible. Or as Barbara Streisand said in Yentl, nothing's impossible, one of my favorite lines. Your background does not determine your future. So with that, our first speaker is Kimberly Easson, who is the founder and the chief executive officer of now Equal Origins, formerly called the Partnership for Gender Equity. Kimberly has traveled the world for more than 30 years, connecting coffee farming communities with coffee businesses in an effort to create more equitable trade relationships that benefit farming women and their families. The Partnership for Gender Equity, Equal Origins, is United States-based, women-led, not-for-profit social enterprises that works globally to accelerate gender equity among the coffee, cocoa, and tea supply chains. So with that, I'm incredibly honored and delighted to introduce you to Kimberly.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Michelle. Thanks so much to Berry House, and thanks to the New York chapter of Conscious Capitalism. It's really a thrill for me to be here with you. I'm excited for the conversation that we're going to have with the other fantastic panelists, and looking forward to your questions when we get to that time in our presentation. This month, actually next month, April, is my 30th year in the coffee sector. And I wanted to start off just with a little bit of background about me. Here I am, this was April 30 years ago in Guatemala. And I went to Guatemala after having gotten a master's in international business. Back at the time, that's when international business was a thing, different from domestic business. Now international business is everything that we do. And I went on a scholarship to Costa Rica from the Rotary Club. And it was an international ambassadorial scholarship, and it opened up my world. I came from a pretty stable, regular middle-class family in Wilmington, Delaware, and I had no idea the extent to which so many other people in the world lived lives of poverty. I went to Guatemala. I thought I was going to spring break in Guatemala with my friends, and unbeknownst to me, I ended up on a 2-week trip where we were out in the very rural, impoverished areas of Guatemala just after the end of the Civil War. And the genocide of Guatemalan indigenous peasants. And what I saw in that moment really woke me up and really inspired me that I wanted to do something different. So here I had this international business degree, and we used to joke that we were the globalizers. You know, we were going to globalize the world for business. And then I came to Guatemala and had this experience. And what I realized is that this was really my first foray into conscious capitalism. And so here we are today, 30 years later, talking about conscious capitalism. And we've made a lot of progress. So thanks to thought leaders like John Mackey, and then all of you who are really bought in and supporting and driving and accelerating this work of conscious capitalism. I want to put my hat off to you and thank you for the work that you're doing, because it's this global partnership that really makes change possible. So 30 years later, here we are, we're talking about coffee. Who doesn't love to talk about coffee? Coffee, wine, dentistry, here we are. We have three exciting topics. I'm curious, is everybody a coffee drinker? Michelle, close your eyes. Maybe we don't want to know if some of your colleagues aren't coffee drinkers. Maybe, how many cups of coffee have you had today? Let's see, a show of fingers. I've had 2, everybody. Okay. All right, great. Great. Well, coffee is an amazing business. And we were joking earlier before everybody came on. It is a business that once you're in it, it's very difficult to leave. It is one of the largest businesses in the world and most traded commodities in the world. We have 2.5 billion cups of coffee per day, and demand is growing. Coffee is big business and an exciting business. Oh, there we go. Okay, so it's a $200 billion value in retail value, and I'm growing 2.5% per year. There's $500 million being invested annually in sustainability initiatives. So like Michelle pointed to, organic certification, fair trade certification. There's a big drive in the coffee sector for sustainability and social responsibility, as evidenced by this data point of $500 million in investment. 10% of the $2.5 billion is what stays in coffee producing countries. And only 0.0025% of that $500 million is what represents the value of the 2.5 billion in revenue. There's a small amount of investment that's actually made in sustainability. So we have an opportunity in coffee to do more. In coffee, I'm a woman in the coffee business. I've traveled around the world, and whenever I go to coffee producing communities, this is kind of the scene. You have people that want to learn more. They're really excited to have an international visitor. They're keen to gain market access. And so this is a typical scene of me as a woman showing up in a coffee producing communities. And so we have some assumptions in coffee, logical. Coffee is a man's crop, and that the work of women and youth is supplemental. If you, in reality, look at the roles in the coffee chain, you have plant care all the way up to marketing and exporting and sales of the coffee. And you see that women's roles really happen at the early stages of the coffee process. And then beyond which men take care of the transporting and take care of the market access. And men are also the ones that have membership in farmer organizations and access to the training and the vocational education. So remember that $500 million, most of that is spent in vocational training to farmers in rural communities. Here are some pictures of who's behind coffee. Women sorting, picking out the beans, these are the coffee cherries. These are women in Rwanda selecting coffee, again. And we assume in the coffee sector that a farming household, so really coffee farming is a family business, very small holder plots, an acre or so on average. And that you think, okay, well, in a household, you're going to share the money, you're going to share information. And in reality, sadly, that's not the case in most coffee producing households. So you see the man goes off and is able to gain access to the market and to sell the coffee, have the income. And because he thinks coffee is his business, he holds on to the money. And sadly, if you look at this data point from the Food and Agriculture Organization of the UN, if women have access to the resources in a household, they're going to spend 90% of that on meeting household needs. That's not the same data point for men. If men have access to the resources, they only spend about 40% on meeting household needs. So you see a big opportunity here. And what happens is women tend to be marginalized. Here we are again, that same picture, the women, the small petite women trying to careen and get a space in to see and learn something from the international visitor. In the coffee industry, sadly, gender inequality is always seen to be kind of this marginal sideline issue. So we got our good agricultural practices training, we've got carbon mitigation, carbon programs, we've got nursery development and all kinds of investment in agriculture. And what happens is, oh, well, we better do a gender project. And what happens is that ends up being a very small slice of the pie. You know this guy, Juan Valdez, he's been the face of coffee for decades. And in reality, coffee farming looks like this. It's a family business. And it often looks like this. Men are the ones to out-migrate from communities so that they can earn a living elsewhere. And women stay behind and are often responsible for the farms. Or we look at coffee farming as a family business. Women are often the hidden workforce. So what we need to do is start to expand our view and include all of the stakeholders in coffee. So I have a short 90-second video here, which I want to show you about our new tool.
Women play a crucial role in producing coffee, contributing between 40 and 80% of the labor it takes to get coffee beans from the farm to your cup. And despite the industry's significant investment in education and technical support to farmers, much of it doesn't reach or benefit women. Hundreds of thousands of women struggle behind the scenes. Their contributions to coffee go unseen, are frequently performed without compensation, and often in harsh circumstances. Women are coffee's hidden workforce. At Equal Origins, we're looking to change that. Not only do women deserve better access to vocational education, but empowering women will also strengthen the supply chain. We can do this by making meaningful structural changes in the way sustainability projects are developed, delivered, monitored, and evaluated. We have recently released a new diagnostic tool called the Gender Equity Index, or the GEI. The GEI helps organizations evaluate the impact of their sustainability initiatives on women in coffee. It's an innovative tool meant to ensure that women can access the services they need and are recognized equally for the work that they do. The GEI gives actors across the supply chain a tangible way to promote equity and equality. Coffee can't grow without women, and it's time they are offered the same opportunities as men to learn, grow, and prosper. You can help us promote gender equity in coffee. Learn how.
As Michelle pointed out, as we got started, we are a women-led, not-for-profit social enterprise. We're based in Washington, D.C., just down the road from you all. And we are working globally to elevate the voice and visibility of farming women and their families in the coffee and cocoa sectors in particular. We really are business focused. Brings back my international business degree and this recognition that capitalism really is the way to drive change globally. The coffee sector reaches out to the furthest, most remote corners of the world, and we have the opportunity to favorably impact people in those far remote corners of the world with a scalable change. The Gender Equity Index is just that. It really is meeting the industry where they are, looking to transform how vocational education is offered in the coffee sector, and making sure that that vocational education reaches and benefits women equally. The industry practice to date has been and is to buy women's coffee to support women's entrepreneurship and better opportunities. And that's fantastic. That makes a lot of sense because those are the women that are most visible, right? These are the women that do go to the coffee conferences and show up and have already a foot in the door to the international market. And we need more support for those because those are the they make women visible. And what we're solving for with this gender equity index is actually for this hidden population that we referred to in the video, women inside of coffee farming households that are led by men, where they have very little access and visibility. So we want to make sure that women have access to that vocational education. It really is the opportunity and the responsibility of the industry to make sure that that training reaches women. I mean, you all run businesses. You're not just going to train half your workforce, right? You know, you want to make sure all of your human resources have access to the same training. Our tool is probably more detailed information than is appropriate for this group, but it's an online questionnaire for service providers to be able to understand where they are and get on a path towards greater gender equity in their service provision on the ground, and really reaching and benefiting women equally to men, and empowering and transforming the circumstances within which women work. So we have many other programs that we're doing. The Gender Equity Index is our main drive because we really do see it's industry-wide, scalable, and if we're able to demonstrate the impact in coffee and cocoa, then tea is an easy add-on, rice, across the board. We could really see how to expand this tool into other agricultural supply chains as well. So we are inviting members of the international coffee sector and cocoa sector to be a part of this journey, a journey to greater gender equity globally. And really grateful for the chance to be here with you all. Look forward to your questions. If there's something that I've said that piques your interest, or a contact that maybe that you think would be beneficial to us. We're a small organization with a huge ambition. We really are clear that we're on the right path, and we look forward to potentially establishing relationships with you all. And again, really grateful to Berry House for their support, because without Berry House, the Gender Equity Index would have only been a dream. So we're really grateful for the contributions of Berry House to make our work possible.
Thank you, Kimberly. Thank you so much. That was an amazing presentation. Just a housekeeping note, I know there's a lot of questions that are coming out, which is great. Just if we can hold them all till the end, we'll have time at the end, hopefully for some amazing questions and answers. But thanks again, Kimberly. And I would just say that, besides the work that Equal Origins is doing being so important, it makes great sense to our customers. So I know when we talk to customers of Berry House, large customers, small customers, about the work that we're doing in partnership with Equal Origins, it really resonates with them, and it really it differentiates us versus other coffee companies in a very crowded category. So it's not only important, it's not only worthwhile, it just makes amazing business sense. So thank you for that, Kimberly. And very similar now, we've got Carmen Stevens, and similar story. So we want to hear from her. But for centuries, winemaking and the business of wine has been a male-dominated industry, especially true in South Africa. And to this day, most winemakers, general managers, and owners of wineries are still white and male, regardless of where that wine region is found. And so not historically an easy situation for a woman, let alone a woman of color. But Carmen is the first woman of color who's been accepted, after initially being refused due to the color of her skin, to study winemaking, which again has been a traditionally male-dominated industry in South Africa. And over the course of 25 years, Carmen has overcome obstacle after obstacle on her journey, inspiring others to persevere, challenge the system, and redefine what is possible, or as Barbara would say, nothing's impossible. So with that, I'm just truly delighted, nominated by Robert Bradshaw, President and CEO of Cape Classics, on our corporate board, Carmen Stevens.
Thank you so much, Michelle, and thank you, Robert, for the nomination. While I am truly inspired by the previous speakers' work and what you are doing for women, especially. I was asked to share my journey into wine. I come from a a background where my mother was a factory worker, and I had a learning problems at school. And to overcome that learning problems, my mother gave me novels to read. And in that novels, most of it, the settings was with wine or in a winery. And I was very, very young. And I remember saying to my mother one day, I'm going to be a winemaker. I don't think she ever realized it's actually going to turn out like that. So many years later, in my final school year, when I told her I'm now applying to the institute to study winemaking, I think that's the first time that she realized that I was serious about this. I applied and I was refused based on my color, because I come from my parents got divorced when I was really young, and in the South African context, and I believe it's actually throughout the world, as soon as that one parent, as soon as parents split up, the father becomes less involved in the upbringing of the children. So my mother was the main breadwinner, the main caregiver. And so when I was refused, I decided I'm going to find a job because I knew that we anyway didn't have the money to go and study. So I found a job in Cape Town, which is about 30 minutes from where I lived, in a factory. And about 3 months into that, I realized it's just not going to pay that bill. So I went to my mother and I said, listen, the money that I'm saving, I would like to buy kids' clothes and shoes and sell it on Saturdays on Cape Town Station as an additional income for my studies. She agreed, and then Friday afternoons and Saturdays I would back off to the station and sell my goods on the station. Today, I think people will look at it and say, wow, you were a true entrepreneur. I don't think that word really existed or had that much impact then than it has now. Second year, I applied. Again, I was refused based on I didn't have any agriculture background. And also, I didn't do military service in the South African Army. Again, my mother stuck at what you're going to do. I said, no, I'm going to be a winemaker one day, and continued to work. I didn't have enough money yet anyway, so I thought I'll just go back and just continue. Applied for the third time, but in 1992, when I applied for the third time, I did an agriculture course through correspondence. And with that, I then reapplied, but this time I thought I'm not going to post. There was no emails then. Post my application. I took it in and I insisted to see the head of the college. Waited for an hour and I told him, this is my third application. I will not accept a no again. It was also the political changes in South Africa was really on stream at that point in time. And I promised him if they did not accept me, I'll go to the newspapers. So a month later, I got a letter that I was accepted into university to study winemaking. Wow, what a blow to my being. Going to a university that mainly we were only 5 girls, only guys, big white men that came out of military service that had a completely different view on people of color, that they were just not able to think. They were not able to be in the same room with me. It was the toughest years of my life. In my second year, it got so bad that I packed my mother gave me an ultimatum. She said, you pack your bags or I pack it for you. And again, I made a decision, I'll pack my bags, but I'm going to have my say. So the head of agriculture, Western Cape, South Africa, was based at the college. Made an appointment to see him, told him what happened, what was happening over the year and a half. And today, if I look back, I can kick myself for not taking that step earlier, because the one thing that I've learned from that is not everybody thinks on the same wave. He might not have agreed with me being there, but he saw the bigger picture. And just that 2-hour talk with him and explaining to him what has been happening to me over the past year and a half changed my life for the better. Monday, he called assembly, and my life was just 100 times better. From there, I qualified in 95 as South Africa's first Black winemaker, irrespective of gender. And then I went to go and work. My last year, I got a bursary from the biggest wine company in South Africa, Distell. And I went to go and work for them. My first job title was winemaker's assistant. The other white people that qualified, that also got jobs in the company, was called assistant winemakers. Today, I worked like a dog. Somebody once said, oh my God, they made you work like a dog. But today, if I look back, what was meant to probably convince me to leave the industry made me so determined, have placed me in a position where there's nothing in a cellar that I cannot do myself. I am a very practical, hands-on winemaker. I stand back for absolutely nobody in the cellar. I have an absolute belief that if I expect somebody to do something, I need to show them how to do it. I need to show them that I can do it myself as well. So that didn't break me. In 5 years, I worked for this company. They merged with another big company, and I applied for the job. Just a step back. In my 3rd year, I was in the HR office one day, and now I'm working with different interns during harvest that I have to help, I have to assist, I have to tell them what to do. I'm in the HR office, and this young girl says, don't you want to hand out the salary slips for the month? And I say, sure, and she gives it to me, and she says, yes, just the interns. And I take it, and so I need to read their names, and it's an open thing, and I realize these guys are earning more money than what I'm earning as a qualified winemaker. Again, I took on the company. I said, this is not on. They had all kinds of excuses. I said, no, I just don't buy this. And they had to correct that. The company merged with another company. I applied for the job as a head winemaker in white wines. I was told I was not competent enough. I made a decision that if they think that I'm not competent, then I will wait for another 20 years and they will sing the same song. So on my interview, I said, thank you so much. I will be resigning. I was amazed. They didn't believe me. I resigned. The next day, the director came to me and said, you cannot resign. I said, no, I can. And he said, you are just confused and you are overwhelmed. You're going to the Netherlands tomorrow. When you come back, you'll have a new perspective. And I said, no, I'll go. I'll come back and I will resign. And I resigned. And I was offered the money for the position, but not the title. And again, I said, I refuse to take that. I know my worth and I'm moving on. And I got probably 2 weeks prior to that, where it was announced that I didn't get the job and they didn't think I'm competent. I got an opportunity with another company. So I called them up and said, I'm available if you still have that opening. They interviewed me and I got the job within an hour. And it really boosted my self-worth, because when I left that company, when I left Estelle, you judge yourself, you do introspect and you think, am I really not capable? Am I really not worth it? And I remember that harvest season, because I resigned in December. I started January with this new company. January, our harvest season starts. And I was so afraid that I really didn't live up to what they expected from me, that I basically slept in the cellar. It was probably one of the best vintages I've ever had in my life. Worked with him for 5 years. In that 5 years, I worked with international winemakers that taught me the art of blending, that taught me that you look differently at wine, that taught me that you can have, you determine your style in the vineyard. You determine that in the vineyard, you can blend and how you can play with, and that was such a fantastic experience for me. 5 years down the line, I was offered a head winemaker position by an American couple that bought a small winery in South Africa, and they wanted somebody that understood wine. They came from a restaurant background, so didn't understand, and they said, if you take the job, you can do whatever you like. And what an amazing opportunity that somebody trusted me so much and just said, there's the cellar, take it and do with it as you please. And we made some remarkable wines while I was working for this company, and it really propelled me as a winemaker in the international market and stage as well. I worked for this couple for many, many years, and they were absolutely amazing, supported me in so many ways. And then in 2010, they made the decision to go back and sell off the farm. And it just so happened in that time, I was offered, if I make wines under my own label, a company in the UK will sell it. And I went to them, I said, I got this opportunity. And they said, you must take it. And for a year, they gave me their cellar space to make that wine in. And I started very, very small, and it just grew from there. So in 2011, I decided, I've got 2 girls. My girls are so privileged, and I come from such a poor background. I come from a background where on a Thursday night, we were lucky to have a slice of bread to eat. So I felt in the community where I grew up, I want to start a small soup kitchen. And I said it will never be less than 300, but never more than 500, because it comes out of my own pocket, and I provided soup 3 times a week to children. Oops, I'm not sure. Yeah. And that grew over time. And in 2015, I got the opportunity to be in the UK, speak to the company that's selling my wines in the UK, told them what I'm doing, and they gave me a very small amount of money to assist me with the kitchen. And as a thank you note, I just sent back pictures and thank you notes from the schools, and they were so impressed. It's common, the people that's buying your wine in the UK, how would you feel if we tell them what you're doing and see if they don't want to chip in? It was an amazing success. We started, it was a donation day, and people donated to this cause, and I was blown away. That year we fed 3,060 learners, not just a cup of soup 3 times a week, but a breakfast and a lunch every day that they were at school. That grew to such an extent. In the year of COVID, we fed over 18,000 people. Today, we feed 25,531 learners in 125 schools. And the impact of that food on that child is mind-blowing. Ear infections that has gone down. Interaction in the class that just accelerated. The result is better. Kids want to be at school. They see it as a safe haven. The impact, the interaction between teacher and child has improved. Children are partaking in sport more. They are punctual. They want to be there. So the impact is just absolutely mind-blowing. But that is on the NPO side. And I feel so strong about this because, you know, my background, my community, wine was always seen as a big no-go. It is a product that breaks up households. It's a product that lead people astray, kids don't finish school. It has so many negative connotations to wine, and yet wine is the thing today that is helping me, assisting these children to be better at school, to be the best at school, and to be a child without having to worry, where is my next meal coming from? That's jumping the gun. In 2019, my winemaking business has grown to such an extent that I could open the first 100% Black-owned and woman-owned winery in South Africa. We are in a space where we can determine what happens next to the wine. We are in a space where I can be my creative self with my wines. As I said earlier, I'm a very active winemaker. I loved what I'm doing. And in the process, I have had 3 students that has worked with me, 3 students that I have managed to secure bursaries for, that they can finish their studies. One of my first interns is doing her master's this year. Again, I secured that funding for her. And having just people coming here and seeing what was previously perceived as a white domain, not just for a white male domain, but also white people. It was seen as a product for educated white people, is a product for anybody. In South Africa, if I was the first person of color to qualify as a winemaker, can you imagine there is so little Black people that's stakeholders in this industry. There's so little Black people that owns land. Less than 3% of agriculture wine is in the hands of Black people in South Africa. Yet it is those same Black people that's been working these vines and vineyards and cellars all these years that has built this industry to what it is today. And so I am a big I speak out on a lot of these issues, and it doesn't always serve me well. But I feel if it's not me, who else? And today I can say there is 67 Black-owned brands in South Africa. Our biggest challenge is that to get market share in our own country, to get market share where people say, I'll take your product and it will be on my shelves. It is the route to market for a Black brand in South Africa is almost non-existent. And for that reason, a lot of the products are sold in the international market where people are more open to trying wines from Black people. And so we speak about buying consciously, not just the people in your area, but buying consciously Black-owned brands to help those Black-owned brands to get a footing in their own country, but also to get a footing in the market. As a woman in the wine industry, there's a lot of women in the wine industry. So people always say, you need to work 10 times harder. You need to justify yourself over and over. You have to show that you are worth it to be there. You need to show that you can stand your ground. You need to always think and approach people strategically. You need to, your compensation is always less. You always have to fight. That is for women. For Black women, it's ×3. And that for me is the sad part. I think that we have to just over and over prove our worth is for me the saddest. But from where I'm sitting today, I am confident. Change is happening. It's happening slowly. But if we have more backing from more international players, if we have the backing from the people that says, you know what, I'll give it a try. It cannot hurt me to give a product a try. Then I think we will be able to get a better footing in our own country, and we will be recognized for the work that Black people has been doing in the South African wine industry. And that is my my story.
It's really an amazing journey, really fascinating, and we are so incredibly grateful for you not only sharing it with us, but you win the prize for furthest person calling in from South Africa. So we know there's a time, we know there's a huge time difference. So we are just incredibly grateful, and it's such a compelling story, and it's just amazing what you have just truly shown, that nothing is impossible, and what you've been able to do to be a true success in the industry. So thank you for sharing that with us. Our next speaker is Dr. Aman Kaur. And Dr. Kaur is the founder and president of Women in DSO, which is the dental support organization, and the chief executive officer for AIM Dental Alliance. So a little bit about dentistry, women in dentistry. They have progressed by leaps and bounds over the past 100 years, and today represent over 30% of the industry. I myself have a female dentist, and who's amazing, by the way. Although that number is growing, it doesn't mean it's been easy, and there's much change coming for the future. As you know, even when you're succeed in studying and finding something you love, respect a position within a male-dominated industry, it can really feel isolating. I know I'm a chemical engineer by degree, and when I started my journey, there were very few female engineers, so I totally know how that can be isolating. Dr. Kaur is a trained dentist with extensive financial and business experience. She's constantly shaping the industry and committed to elevating women in dentistry. She founded the Women in DSO, as I mentioned, to provide a platform to empower and promote women in the dental and dental support organization space industry. Dr. Kaur, like our other panelists, has had to overcome challenges and is committed to supporting women in the relevant trends for women in the future. She was nominated by Michael Williamson, who is also on our corporate board. Michael is the Chief Compliance and Ethics Officer for Pacific Dental Services. Normally during a call, I might be chomping on some hard candy. I decided, well, the dentist's not a good idea. So with that, I will turn it over to Dr. Kaur. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michelle. What a generous introduction. And honestly, after Carmen's story and Kimberly, your presentation, I don't know how to follow. So thank you so much for sharing your stories. And Carmen, I had tears in my eyes. It's talk about story of perseverance and determination. So thank you for sharing those stories. I'm just humbled and honored to be in your presence. Thank you. So I want to share, I want to start by talking a little bit about dental service organizations. It's a little bit different than dentistry, because dentistry is going to a dental office, seeing a dentist, seeing your hygienist, and dental support organizations, it's more of a corporate back end of dental offices, which support and provide all non-clinical services to dentists, because dentists are not trained as business executives. They are trained to just take care of patients. So I started my career as a dentist, and I've been very fortunate. I don't have any complaints how life taught me and took me to different avenues. So I was able to work with a husband and wife owned dental practice. And I learned how, different, just by little difference in gender, regardless of the quality of work, and they both went to same school, they were perceived differently by their own staff. So started there, and then we had a lot of consultants coming in. They taught us culture of accountability, bringing the best out of people. And when you're a clinician or even a chemical engineer or technician, you are trained to do same thing better, faster every day. So you just use one part of your brain, and then there's another part of your brain where you have to use it to bring the best out of other people, which we just put it kind of on standby being in dental school, and young dental student coming out of school, and I didn't know I even had that part to my brain. But then I learned I need to bring the best out of people around me, and then my circle of influence grows through that. And that's where I learned about dental service organizations, evolution, and how dentists can get into some non-clinical administrative work, but then they can work with other clinicians or non-clinicians to extend their reach to many much larger populations. So that was exciting part for me, and I dived into that career. And the only way I know how to do something is to go to school. So went to school, learned business degree to open that part of my brain. And God, that was a humbling experience. I learned I was the worst communicator in my classroom. I learned that I thought my opinion mattered more, because as dentist, I am supposed to give diagnosis and that's it. So it was an eye-opening experience nonetheless. It humbled me to my core, and I learned that I have so much to learn. As I was going through all this throughout my career, I worked with some dental support organizations, and I saw dental offices full of women. Some of the guy dentists would call them my girls. And these grown women don't want to be called my girls, right? And although it comes from very nice intentions, but nonetheless, it doesn't feel perfect or nice. So small things, I was called, my girl, even as a dentist, and I was like, all right, perfect. So small things learned, and every time I went into a dental support organization, I saw this lion's share of work, whole HR department, accounting department, run by a woman, because it takes attention to details. It takes a lot of juggling. Women just naturally happen to be, they do it on their daily basis in their personal lives. They just do it well. And then 85% of consumer spending decisions are being made by women. That's just a fact. And when we have those women running the offices, we know how a consumer would want to spend their money, because that's us. And so, thinking about all those things, and women, they were adding to organizations, but I've seen over the last 20 years ago, it was much different. It's better now, but not where it needs to be. It's you go and there is a department being run by a woman, another big important work done by women, but when it comes to an organization being represented, it's being represented by a guy or man. So and that I kept asking that question, and I would go into companies as a consultant, and I learned that I could think faster, I could move things to better results much faster, but somehow I didn't have that bro code. So I have no resentment, no harsh feelings. It is what it is, but nonetheless experienced it. And I could keep asking that question over and over. Why is it this way? Why is it this way? Or do something about it. And that's where I started talking about, we need women in DSO group. And because I feel women need to network better. That's what we don't have. We don't network very well as men do. We don't champion other women like guys do. We need to be talking each other up, be that wing woman. And I've seen when I have ever put a woman in charge of procurement department, or even HR department, or accounting, or whatever, they negotiated so hard for the companies. I got the best deal, best work, all those things. But when it came to a woman negotiating for themselves, they just don't do the same. And then the other part was, women don't always feel they're worth the investment. And that investment can be taking another educational course, maybe taking a leap of faith, starting a business, investing into business, putting that 10%, 20% equity stake in the ground. They just don't find themselves worth. So those things kind of kept bothering me. So that's where Women in DSO is started. And so we started talking about it in 2019. Pandemic came, we didn't do very much. And we took that year to come up with what is it that we want to accomplish. So as Women in DSO, we want to come from a place of strength, because I honestly, genuinely believe, and I have seen how much talent there is among women. we just need to get out of our way, lift each other up, and let our light shine. And so that's been the goal of Women in DSO. We did our launch event in last year in July, and our first event this year was inaugural event, first year. And we were supposed to have a deposit during pandemic, and I had to front that $70,000, and God, I was shaking in my boots. It's pandemic. I don't know what's going to happen, but we had over 570 people who attended our inaugural event. And it coming from an industry, dentist, it should be great, it should be easy, but the stories we heard in that event, it broke me. People shouldn't have to go through school, work so hard, be 10 times better than the guy next to them. Every 3 months, they're getting promoted over every other person, but still can never be a CEO or be that executive they should be. So if those stories were inspiring, and fortunately, yes, we are making progress, but we don't, in DSO, dental service organizations, top 20 companies have no female CEO, 0. Even in, if we look at Fortune 500, there's only 4% female CEOs, 4%. We shouldn't be okay with this. It's just, I feel we try to say we are a company where women feel empowered. We, our 80% of our population is workforce is women. And there is still maybe, 30% on the decision table, and if lucky, less than 5% in leadership. So that's the whole goal. I feel women don't need a crutch. They just need to get out of their way, and we need to not make them in charge of something where they are actually moving and shaking the industry and doing things, but let them represent the industry they have built. That go to a dental office. Dentists now, over 60% are coming out of dental school are women, which is a huge thing. And hygienists, 85% of them are typically women. And you all, I'm sure everyone who has gone to a dental office, there are just so many women. But why do we just use them as an auxiliary always? They have to be, we should give them a chance to represent the industry they're building. So that's all Women in DSO's goal is. And we, dentistry get challenging ergonomically, physically after a certain age. Women shouldn't have to remove themselves from workforce. They can get into leadership roles. They can inspire other people, and you don't have to touch every person as your patient to change their life. You can do that through working through other dentists. So that's our goal. And I feel really fortunate that we have this platform, and we have those opportunities to make women, to make available those to women. But at the same time, I believe we have to come from place of strength. There is abundance of sunshine for everybody. And if we could be just wing women for everyone, and we can really represent the industries we are building. And it can be a coffee industry, it can be a wine industry. And I was actually thinking coffee and wine, it brings families together, and dentistry people are like, oh, I hope I don't have to see one. But nonetheless, it's, smiles are very powerful. As dentists, I remember patients coming like this, leaving with a smile on their face. You change lives. So, and all these women are doing it, and I hope they can elevate themselves, raise their profile, and just let who they are shine. And I share with people who we are can never be our weakness, because that's all we got. There's no other self. So we just need to embrace who we are, and just be in that environment where everyone can enjoy our sunshine. So that's the goal we try to live by at Women in DSO. And thank you so much for including me here. It's a privilege and an honor.
Thank you so much, Dr. Kaur. That was truly amazing. And what you're doing with DSO is truly impressive. So thank you again for sharing that with us. We're going to open up for questions, but I have a quick question for the panel. It's kind of building up on what Dr. Kaur is saying. So Dr. Kaur with her organization is talking about elevating and empowering people in the industry. So I don't know if you can share anything, a specific instance or specific person that each one of you has mentored, another woman that you have mentored. I don't know if that's something you can share with us, but if you do have a specific situation, that's great, because I think, as Dr. Kaur said, it's important not only that individually succeeding, but setting the future or helping future leaders or helping us elevate, other women. So Dr. Kaur, do you want to take that one first?
Yeah, absolutely. So my entire life, I have been very fortunate to work around strong women. And we are celebrating Women History Month, but I feel history demands that we change the future. And we do need present help to change ourselves for future, but nonetheless, history demands that we can't live like that forever. So throughout, I got to work with one of the dental assistants. It was I was a clinician in that group, and she was dental assistant, recently divorced, came from very affluent family, and she was worked in political sector, and had so much more to her just being a dental assistant. But she was down on her knees, recently divorced. And she felt she needs to do something as dental assistant, go to dental hygiene school, and have that technical skill to get there. So I just saw there's more to her than just being an auxiliary staff member. So by the time I worked with her over 3 years, and she left that position as vice president of operations. And it was what that mentoring took was for me to it's not always giving the answer, it's asking the right question. So when I asked her, is this really what you want? And was that a right question? Probably no. Then why do you want this? What is it that you're ultimately after? It was the lifestyle. I have 3 daughters. I want security. If I go and gain that skill, I will never have to worry about employment. Why do you think you lack something? You are a great communicator. That's something people don't have. So being a great communicator is a huge skill. A lot of times people so undervalue this, and they want to gain a technical skill. But a lot of these people with great technical skill are led by people with great communication skill. So once she understood that, she was master of trade, and now she has a great career, calls her hours, and living an amazing life.
Thank you. That's great. Carmen, any mentoring that you would like to share? Any specifics?
Thank you. Sorry, my mic was off. Yes, I think that if I could mentor, if I was in the position of mentoring, I would firstly say to girls, own your self-worth. A lot of people can put doubt in yourself about your own abilities. So the people that, and it's so, sometimes I think it's sad because I only take in girl interns because I feel that it is the girls in our industry that doesn't get that opportunity. Girls qualify as winemakers in our industry, and it's very rare that they actually go into the field of winemaking. They go into a lab, they go into selling supplies. The opportunities are so limited for girls, and for that reason, I make it my mission that the interns that I take in, I equip them and I make them understand that you can only know your self-worth if you take on whatever comes to you. You take it on with both hands. You must embrace your work. It's not something that's handed to you on a plate. And if you're willing to work and you're willing to put in the effort, nobody can stand in your way. So my mentoring advice to young girls that I work with.
Great, thank you. Kimberly.
Yeah, I think because of the nature of the work that I've been involved in over so many years, it almost as like a sort of a cascade effect where we're working directly to shine the spotlight on women and empower women, and then they get to do the same thing because they see role models. So it's a way to start to, for myself, to be a role model and to work broadly to help uplift women, to shine the spotlight on the important work that they do, and then encourage them also to do the same.
Okay, great, thank you. So with that, we have about 10 minutes. So maybe we can open it up for questions to the attendees on the call. Okay, well, all right. Kathy, do you have a question?
Yeah, I'm not sure it's a question as much of a kind of an observation as I was listening to everyone. So first of all, thank you all, because all of your stories have been so inspiring. I've come from the tech industry where it is very male dominated. But what was very interesting as I was listening to all your stories is in the tech industry, there's not a lot of women, right? So we've been really trying to bring women in, give them the encouragement, make sure they're getting the education. For all three of your industries, it is in a lot of ways dominated by women that are under marginalized, right? And I love the term, the auxiliary staff and all of that, and what you're doing and being the advocates to make sure their voices are heard are just amazing. So, I'm so glad you brought your stories forth, because we do all have to lift each other up, right? Because you have to work extremely hard. I think all three of you said it, and I'm watching everyone's head. Everyone's nodding like, yes, I get it. I feel it. I know it. But by providing platforms for everyone and putting that voice out, it's so important. So I just wanted to thank all of you on that.
Great, thank you. Anyone, any other questions? Yes, Amanda.
Yeah, so my question is for Carmen and Kimberly. If, listening to both of your stories, I've become more conscious of the businesses that I support and looking into, how they treat their employees, all of those things. Because I used to be an economics teacher, and I taught my students that you vote with your wallet. And so if we want to go into like our local stores or go online and order products from businesses that are doing similar work to you, Carmen, I think you mentioned it was 67, there are 67 Black-owned wineries in South Africa. How do I go about finding those? So is there a way that when I'm searching and looking that I want to support those businesses, that there's a term on a label or something like that that I can look for?
So thank you for that, Amanda. No, unfortunately, I think it is actually searching out those 67 by name. Unfortunately, a few of them do have agents in the USA, but it is, I don't think that anybody has ever thought to categorize it as such. And the reason for that is also to move away from that we are different. You understand, we are just another product on the shelf. We don't want to be seen. As a matter of fact, a lot of the brands doesn't even want to be known as Black-owned brands, because they feel it's putting them in a category where they are marginalized. So what I can do is I know that there's quite a big group of this, some of the group is going to the US in November, October, but I can maybe speak to Robert and see how you can get the names out into to you or to whoever is interested in knowing who those brands are.
And Kimberly, with coffee, is there anything similar? Or is it kind of, it's not an easy way to detect certain businesses to support?
Yeah. There's gotten to be kind of label fatigue in the coffee sector, I would say. A lot of companies are, not Berry House, but some companies are resistant to putting labels on their packages. And I think that's the challenge of the moment, that especially with gender equity, there isn't a label. And so I think it's incumbent on the consumer, both the business and the consumer, to ask the questions, right? So Berry House, for example, and not only ask the questions, but also advocate, right? So Michelle's saying when she's out talking to her customers, talks about the importance of gender equity, then customers going into those stores also put your money where your mouth is, as an economics teacher, or just a caring consumer, a caring person. Conscious capitalism is all about how do we make the right choices, and it comes by individuals asking questions to really kind of get start a sort of a movement towards greater equity, and both racial equity and gender equity and all fairness up and down the supply chains and globally is, I think, what we all know creates more peace, a more peaceful and prosperous world.
Thank you.
Sorry, can I come in again? One of the movements one of the projects that we are doing in South Africa is actually to say to people in our communities is, when you do enter a restaurant or when you do enter a shop where wines are sold, you ask, do you have any Black-owned brands? And if you don't, move on to the next one, because that's the only way that we find that we're going to get in our country that space. And I think that actually is true for any product. If you want to support a specific product, if you want to support women in coffee, you need to ask the question, do you have a woman supplier of coffee? Do you have a woman supplier of wine? I think that's very important. The other thing that I'm not sure that I mentioned earlier is that of these 67 Black-owned brands in South Africa, I think about 70% of them are woman-owned. It is the woman that is driving this change in our industry, which is absolutely phenomenal. And I think that I'm not sure how you would bring that message across to the normal consumer, that that it is woman-owned, that it is Black-owned, and you can't really put that on a label. So the only way that I see around that is to consciously ask for that. And that is how you make a difference.
I just wanted to go back to what Dr. Kaur was saying about how the challenge of feeling isolated. So it's obviously important to empower women and to remove the gender bias, as Kimberly was saying, and equal pay and helping women succeed. But there's just the good business sense of the fact that when you hire employees, whether they're women, whether they're people of color, whatever it is, that if they're feeling isolated, they're going to derail, and that's just bad for any business. And I shared with Kimberly and her team last week when they presented to my team that when I started my journey as a chemical engineer, which was a long time ago, on my first day of work, fresh out of college, all wide-eyed and excited, that my boss, who was not much older than me, said, well, we know we're here at a plant. We know as a female, it's a very mechanically oriented job. You're at a disadvantage. That was a long time ago. No one would say that now, but people might still think that. And so the point is that that's just a huge derailer to any employee. So it's just good business practice. It's not, it's empowering women, great, but it's just good business practice for inclusion. And I think, whatever that inclusion means, whatever the gender is, the background, the sexual orientation, it's important that people feel included, because then they will succeed as employees. So any other questions?
Michelle, I have a comment just to
Sure.
follow your comment. Is that okay?
Sure, absolutely.
I think as we're approaching the end of this call, something I've heard over and over in my career is people will say, I am gender new. I don't see gender. I don't care. I honestly think it's a cop-out. see the gender. Women need different kind of attention. They are going to have different personal needs. They are going to have families they will put in front of few things. See the gender, see the race. We have to have diversity in thought. We have to have, that's what it's about, because these conversations shouldn't be this uncomfortable. And we have made them very, very uncomfortable because it has become a diversity quota. It has become almost people want that easy button and say, okay, I just need to hire a diverse leadership group. Let me find this person is a little bit diverse, let's hire them. That's not the way to go about it. It's like you have to be intentional about it. Why do you want it? Because it represents our communities we are serving. It represents our workforce we are employing, and we want to see them closely. And I find those things cop out, and I really encourage people who are listening and who are in leadership positions, please don't hide behind it. Take a note of it.
And celebrate the differences. Celebrate the
Yes.
differences, because not everyone communicates the same way, but by having a diverse group of employees, it's representative of our population. So it just is better business practice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I just want to jump in and applaud that last comment, because that to me is really key. I agree. It is a cop-out to say, I don't see any gender, I don't see any color, when it's staring at you right in your face. And I think accepting is a more progressive act than generalizing all people into one mosh pit of humans. So yeah, thank you for that comment. I appreciate you.
Bravo.
My pleasure.
So we are out of time. I just do want to mention I am extremely mechanically oriented, by the way, but that's for another time. But I want to thank Kimberly, Carmen, may I call you Aman, Dr. Kaur?
Yes, please.
I want to thank all three of you for spending time today. I want to thank the assembled group here for sharing their lunch hour, if they're in the eastern part of the US, or their breakfast hour if they're on the west, or dinner or later, if they're in South Africa. But I also want to thank Robert and Michael for nominating and securing Carmen and Aman to join us today. Kimberly, thank you. It's a pleasure to work with you and your team. Great thanks to the Conscious Capitalism NYC group. Kathy, Amanda, thank you for that. Thank you for everyone. Thank you for letting me moderate my first gig with Conscious Capitalism. So I'm just very grateful. And thanks to everyone. Stay safe, and we hope to see you at future events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everybody.
Much appreciated.
Bye.
Thank you, Doctor.